Your seat isn't prepared for the wedding, so it's goodbye here, haha, my sister-in-law said triumphantly, as soon as we landed at the airport. Today, she is having her wedding in Hawaii. We came all the way to Hawaii, with my husband and his family, but her words were directed solely at me. What do you mean? I asked, feeling flustered, and she continued, You weren't supposed to be invited to the wedding, right? I haven't even made a hotel reservation for you. Maybe you should camp out or just go back home now, haha. My name is Lilith. I'm currently 30 years old, and I've been married to my same-age husband, Jace, for a year now. Jace and I met at a social gathering and quickly hit it off, leading to us dating. During our dating period, we had occasional arguments, but my love for Jace remained strong, and when he proposed, I happily accepted. After getting married, we began living together, with Jace's parents and his sister in the family home. However, right from the start of our new life, I felt that Jace and my in-laws were treating me really badly. First, it was revealed that Jace held traditional gender role beliefs and looked down on women. There had been remarks during our dating period that made me feel belittled, and it often led to arguments. However, living in the family home with Jace, he no longer concealed his true nature. Hey, is the housework done? What are you slacking off for? Taking care of your husband and his family is the wife's job, isn't it? Get it done already. Jace would routinely shower me with verbal abuse in our daily life. However, despite his gender-biased beliefs, he seemed to care deeply for his own family, treating his mother and his 2 years older sister as equals. Furthermore, his family, especially my mother-in-law, viewed me with disdain, and the bullying from my mother-in-law was particularly severe. My mother-in-law is a stay-at-home mom, but since I started living with her, I've never seen her doing any housework. Apparently, she was originally against our marriage, and constantly makes snide remarks towards me. At first, it was just about pushing me to do housework, but gradually, she started complaining about my job too. You know, if you have time to work outside, how about doing some housework? Quit that hobby-like job, that doesn't even bring in much money, she would say. My in-laws, led by my mother-in-law, have consistently urged me to spend the time I work outside on household chores instead. Nevertheless, I diligently manage both my job and household chores. She must understand that I'm balancing both, so she probably just wants to find excuses to fault me. Honestly, what's so enjoyable about being a piano instructor? Her disdain for my job was clear in her attitude. I've been working as a piano instructor at a piano studio since I graduated from college. The studio is run by someone else, and I'm in a hired position. I've loved the piano since I was a child, and even went to College of Music. There was a time when I seriously aimed to become a pianist, but I realized early on that I didn't have the skill required for that level. So, my college professor introduced me to my current workplace, and I started working there. The atmosphere at the piano studio is very pleasant, and I've built good relationships with the students and their families. I genuinely enjoy teaching piano to the kids, and I find it more relaxing to be at work than at home. Jace used to praise and support my job when we were dating, but now he's completely changed from those days. My in-laws and Jace have been urging me to quit my job, but I have a dream of eventually starting my own piano studio and becoming independent, so I haven't considered the idea of becoming a full-time housewife in the future. Furthermore, my sister-in-law, Evie, seems to dislike me as well. Every time we meet at home, she gives me a disapproving look. Why did someone like you marry Jace? You should just hurry up and divorce. But then, who would do the housework? We'd be in trouble, Evie often makes sarcastic remarks like this. She works at a company and uses excuses like being too busy with work to avoid doing any housework. Moreover, since I started living here, she's taken every opportunity to push her laundry and room cleaning onto me. While my father-in-law rarely voiced complaints directly, he seemed to enjoy watching my mother-in-law and Evie belittle me. Feeling that I have no place in this house due to this living situation, I'm currently seriously considering a divorce from Jace. One day, Evie's wedding was announced. It wasn't a surprise, since we had been hearing about the possibility of Evie getting married soon every day. However, her fiancé was quite wealthy, and they planned to have the wedding overseas. The wedding location was set to be in Hawaii. As a result, our whole family decided to go to Hawaii. "I've never been to Hawaii before. I'm looking forward to it," exclaimed my mother-in-law with great excitement. Jace and my father-in-law were also thrilled when they heard about the Hawaii trip, and Evie seemed quite proud. On the other hand, I wasn't particularly enthusiastic. I had never experienced a trip with my in-laws before, and I could foresee the kind of treatment I would receive. However, there was one thing I was looking forward to at this wedding. So, I decided not to dwell on my thoughts about my in-laws or Jace, and decided to participate in the wedding with a positive attitude. On the day of departure, as expected, I was assigned the role of handling my in-laws' luggage. Even on the plane, my in-laws and Jace were engaged in cheerful conversation, but I felt like an outsider, experiencing discomfort as we arrived in Hawaii. We took a late-night flight, so when we arrived, it was just before noon. When I stepped off the plane, I felt a little uplifted by the unfamiliar air of the place I had never visited before. However, right after picking up our checked baggage, Evie told me something I hadn't anticipated. "Thanks for handling the luggage. We didn't prepare a seat for you at the wedding, so it's goodbye here," haha, Evie said. I couldn't immediately grasp what she meant. Evie was smirking triumphantly, and my in-laws and Jace were grinning as they looked at me. What do you mean?" I asked, feeling shaken. Evie responded, "You weren't supposed to be invited to the wedding. We didn't even make a hotel reservation for you." As I stood there in shock, Jace and my in-laws burst into laughter. Frustration welled up, and I bit my lip. Evie continued, "A fancy hotel doesn't suit someone like you. Maybe you can camp out somewhere. If you don't like that, then why don't you just go home?" As she said that with a frivolous smile, I couldn't help but recall all the cruel treatment I had endured from them over the years, and tears welled up in my eyes. Could something so unfair be allowed to happen? My in-laws and Jace didn't defend me. Instead, they were laughing, urging me to leave. I realized I had no allies here, and my patience had reached its limit. With determination, I told my in-laws and Jace, "I understand. I'm going back." In response, my in-laws and Jace let out hearty laughter, seemingly pleased. My mother-in-law said, "Well, that's good. It'll be refreshing without a burden like you." My father-in-law added, "Indeed. You should hurry back and take care of household chores." Then, Jace mocked, "Just go back now. And of course, you'll have to pay for your own return flight, haha." Afterward, they each carried their own luggage and left the airport, leaving me behind. I watched Jace and the others walk away, my anger growing. Then, I managed to find a flight with available seats back to Japan for today, so I quickly completed the return procedures. After returning home, I went to get divorce papers and organized my surroundings, while also taking care of household chores. I had taken time off from work, so I decided to take it easy and relax during the period when my in-laws were not around. Until now, I hadn't really wanted to go back to this house, but I felt pleasant in their absence. A few days later, Jace and my in-laws returned home from their trip abroad. However, as soon as they opened the front door, I heard Jace shouting angrily, "Hey, Lilith! What the hell have you done?" I was in the living room using my smartphone when this happened, and I secretly shrugged my shoulders. Jace's usual heavy footsteps drew closer to the living room, and he, along with my in-laws and Evie, appeared with fierce expressions. "Welcome back! Is something wrong?" I placed my smartphone aside and pretended not to know anything. Then, my mother-in-law approached, shouting loudly, "Don't play dumb! You took our passports with you when you left. What on earth were you thinking?" I just smiled and replied, "When I was told to leave, I wasn't told to return the passports. I thought you didn't need them." Actually, when we went to Hawaii, Jace and my in-laws had assigned me the responsibility of managing the passports. I had placed them in my bag, along with other valuables, but it seemed like they had completely forgotten about it. "You did this on purpose, didn't you? Do you have any idea how much trouble we went through because of this?" Jace shouted at me, his face turning bright red. They only realized the passports were missing the day before they were supposed to return. In a panic, they rushed to the embassy to get emergency travel documents for the trip back home. Afterward, Jace and my in-laws began recounting the difficulties they faced once I had already returned. It was 3 hours after they had left me at the airport. Before the wedding began, Jace and the others headed to the hotel, where they planned to stay during their Hawaii trip. When they arrived at the hotel's front desk, it seemed that no one had any money with them. Jace hadn't brought any dollar bills with him, because he had intended to cover the expenses with my money. Furthermore, it appeared that his credit card was maxed out at that point, so they couldn't pay for the luxury hotel accommodation. As a result, he tried to borrow money from his parents, but they had assumed that their son or daughter would cover the travel expenses, so they had no money on them either. Everyone was in a panic, and Evie, in her haste, decided to rely on her fiancé and his family who had arrived at the hotel earlier. Evie kneeled down in front of her fiancé and his father, who had come down to the front desk. "Please, Amir! There seems to be a little mix-up, and my family is in trouble. Can you lend us some money?" she pleaded. Amir, Evie's fiancé, gave her, Jace, and the others puzzled looks as they bowed their heads. Then, before Evie could make her explanation, Amir spoke up, and an uneasy atmosphere started to build between my in-laws, Amir's family, and Evie. However, what Amir said was unexpected. "I've always wondered, why isn't Ms. Lilith here?" he asked. "Huh? Ms. Lilith?" Evie and the others were puzzled by his words. Amir then continued, "Ms. Lilith is Maya's piano teacher. Isn't she your sister-in-law? I confirmed her attendance for the wedding, so why isn't she here?" Maya, who is Amir's daughter, just turned 6 this year. Actually, Amir has a history of divorce and has one daughter, who happens to be one of my piano students. Maya started attending piano lessons this year, and I'm currently her piano teacher, giving her lessons twice a week. So, I already knew Amir. When Evie, Jace, and my in-laws heard this fact for the first time, they were all astonished and couldn't find the words. "Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, she suddenly fell ill and couldn't make it," Evie stammered as she tried to explain, but both Amir and his father looked at her suspiciously. At that time, Maya was waiting in the hotel room with Amir's mother. Amir, feeling suspicious of Evie's words, muttered, "That's strange. I haven't received any such message. I have a good relationship with Ms. Lilith, so if she couldn't make it, she should have informed me." Evie began to panic and said She was really ill, so maybe she couldn't get in touch. But please, Amir, my family can't stay at the hotel like this. We need the money somehow. Jace and my in-laws also desperately pleaded with Amir. After consulting with his father, Amir said, "You're hiding something about Ms. Lilith, aren't you? If you're honest with me, I'll lend your family the money." Then, reluctantly, Evie and Jace began to explain the situation. Amir and his father, furious upon hearing the whole story, found themselves in a predicament. Canceling the wedding at this point was not an option. With no other choice, and 3 people without funds, Jace and my in-laws ended up using the money for their wedding to cover their travel expenses. However, the wedding proceeded under tense circumstances, and Jace and his family had an uncomfortable stay during their time in Hawaii. "Why did you keep quiet about Amir and his daughter?" Evie, trembling with anger, approached me. "You've brought shame upon us. Because you hid the fact that you knew Amir and them, this whole mess happened." In response to Evie's loud accusations, I replied, "It was a surprise thought up by Maya." This time, Maya was going to perform on the piano at the wedding reception, and Amir's family had asked me to give her lessons for the song she was going to play. It was only through this process that I found out Amir was Evie's future husband. However, if I had revealed that I knew Amir to Evie, there was a chance they would figure out the surprise. So, I had kept quiet and said nothing to Evie and Jace. Upon hearing this explanation, Evie began to shake with anger. She lunged at me, shouting, "This is no time for jokes! What will you do if we end up getting divorced because of you? We were being looked down upon the whole time by Amir's family during the wedding." She continued to berate me, saying, "If anyone even mentions divorce, I'll never forgive you. I finally secured a wealthy husband, you know." "Did you marry Amir for his money?" I calmly asked, and in her emotional state, Evie began to reveal her scheme, without even being asked. Evie had always wanted to marry a wealthy man, but she hadn't been lucky enough to find a good match. Despite attending matchmaking parties and similar events, her high standards had left her without any promising encounters. That's when Evie decided to focus her efforts on rich men who were divorced or had children. She began chasing Amir, eventually starting a relationship with him, and successfully securing a marriage. Knowing her true nature, I could only assume that she had been pretending to be someone she wasn't in front of Amir. She said with a nonchalant attitude, "If I ask for something, he'll immediately give me the money. There's no one else like him, right? Well, I should say, there's no better wallet than him. Otherwise, I wouldn't choose a divorced Ma-en." It was clear that Evie's affection was directed more towards Amir's money than towards Amir himself. As I understood this, anger began to well up inside me, but I managed to restrain myself and speak up. "Well, what about Maya then? Amir said that she's very fond of you. Maya herself was practicing the piano diligently to surprise you at the wedding. Don't you have any affection for her?" I inquired. Evie scoffed and replied, "It's easier to live together if the other person's child likes me, so I treated her kindly. Let me make it clear, though, I never had any intention of becoming the mother of such a child from the beginning." She revealed her true feelings, while belittling Amir and others. She had no interest in Maya at all, even though Maya had practiced the piano so much for her sake. How far would she go to ridicule people? I finally lost my patience, pushed Evie's hand away, and wordlessly presented my phone to her. "Huh? What's this?" I didn't react to Evie's confused expression. Instead, I spoke to my phone. "Amir, did you hear that? Your wife doesn't love you or Maya at all." At that moment, Evie's face turned pale. Wait, you can't be serious. Actually, my phone was currently in speaker mode, unbeknownst to Evie. The person on the call was none other than Amir, who had been listening to the entire conversation. Wait, when did this start? Evie exclaimed. From the moment you all returned home, I replied. No. Evie was speechless, and Jace and the in-laws were bewildered. Thank you, Ms. Lilith. That's enough, Amir's voice came from my phone. Amir! It's not what it sounds like. Evie began to make an excuse, and her face covered in cold sweat. However, Amir let out a deep sigh, and responded with exasperation. That's enough. I understand everything now. You were only interested in my wallet, and you have no affection for Maya. I'm disappointed in you. I'm sorry to Maya, but I have no intention of living with you in the future. Amir demanded a divorce. And I'll make sure to inform my parents about this matter. You don't need to come back to this house. Your parents, stay away from us. After Amir firmly stated, he thanked me and ending the call. I shrugged and put my phone back in my pocket. Then, I looked at Evie. She muttered, "My money!" as if it were a whisper, and she slumped to the floor. To prioritize money even in such a situation was beyond belief. I was left speechless in exasperation. I turned away from the dejected Evie and glared at Jace. I'm getting a divorce too. I've already received the divorce papers, and I've signed them. I packed my things while you were all absent, so I'm leaving immediately. I have no intention of continuing to be your servant, I told them. The first to voice their objections was my mother-in-law. Wait a minute! Who's going to take care of the housework if you're gone? You can't just decide on a divorce for your convenience. I won't allow it. Yeah. Why are you defying me? You should just do as I say. That's what being a wife is all about. Jace chimed in after my mother-in-law. Fueled by the frustration I had been holding back, I took a deep breath and shouted, You're only thinking about your own convenience too. I'm saying, I won't be used the way you want anymore. You can share the housework or whatever, but it's not the wife's job to be a doormat. Jace and my in-laws, who had never seen me raise my voice like this before, looked stunned. They probably never imagined I would rebel. Ignoring their bewildered expressions, I handed the divorce papers to Jace and left the house that same day. Around the same time my divorce from Jace was finalized, it seems that Evie and her husband also got divorced. My in-laws had been proudly boasting to neighbors and relatives about their daughter's wealthy spouse. However, their marriage quickly ended after the wedding, and they became a laughingstock. They say they feel uncomfortable, as they are looked at with disapproval by the neighbors. After our divorce, Jace, it appears, was in a hurry to find a new wife, and actively participated in dating apps. However, his conversations often revealed his traditional gender-biased beliefs, causing women to avoid him, and he's been struggling in the dating scene. On the other hand, I threw myself into my work as a piano instructor, and gradually, my popularity started to grow. I finally fulfilled my dream of opening my own studio. Since then, I've been living a fulfilling life, teaching kids piano and enjoying my independence. I currently rent a space, but I plan to buy a house in the future and run my studio from there. I'm still in touch with Amir and Maya. Amir, due to this incident, has lost trust in women and has no intentions of remarrying. He's committed to raising Maya with the help of his parents. Maya continues to attend my piano classes and works hard on her piano skills. As for me, I'm currently not considering remarriage. I intend to cherish relationships with myself and the people around me from now on, and strive to lead a fulfilling life.